What's up, y'all? Thank you for tuning in to And What About You, hosted by me, Mel D. Give you a little background about myself. I'm a New York-based photographer, born and raised in Syracuse, New York. You might know some of my photos, like I photographed this guy, one of the people I work with. You might know me from, let's see here, this work at Coachella. You might know me from my work. This is one of my first images here. Erykah Badu and Common. This is what started it off for me. And you might know, let's see. This one was a good time. But today's guest is none other than Devin Allen. He's a photographer, born and raised in Baltimore, West Baltimore. This is him. And Allen gained national attention when his documentary photography of the Baltimore uprising was published in Time magazine. That was in 2015. He was an amateur photographer at the time. But basically, him photographing that crazy, intense time in Baltimore and in the world and all of the United States, so to speak, basically changed his life. So we have him on the show today. Yes, he is super talented, and we're going to get him in here right now so we can get to work and share what's going on with you guys and with us. So if you have any questions, please put the questions in the question box. We'll try to get to those questions at the end of the show. And without further ado, waiting for him to connect.
What up? What up?
There he is. There's
what up?
Right here.
What's good, bro?
What's good, man? I'd like to give you a round of applause right here.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show, man.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this photo of yourself off so we can actually do some other stuff.
Yeah.
For some reason, this part of Instagram Live is a little bit slow. It takes like 7 minutes for the photos to come up, and then you're good.
Yeah, I just found out that it was a feature because I don't really do live too much. I just started getting on live post quarantine.
This is the first, during this, I think this is my 7th one that I've done, and for the first 4, I didn't really understand it because I wasn't doing Instagram Live as well. But then after a while, I was like, let me read up on this because I want to do a little bit of production and so on and so forth.
Right.
And get more into it. I'm going to ask you to scoot your camera up a little bit more because I don't see the top of your head.
This is stupid because I'm on the iPad, so you know how this joint is. I got foldable. Yeah. I can back up a little bit. You can see me? You got bumping into the plants and all that.
Yeah, the greenery.
Green, gotta keep the green.
Exactly. See, you good now, man. But So let's get into a little bit of your origin story. Where you from? I told the people you're from Baltimore, but obviously you can explain that much better than I can. But I'm
Devin Allen, Baltimore-based, Baltimore raised artist. I was born in West Baltimore. That's where I grew up at. I became an artist kind of later in life. I grew up in the streets, so I was in the streets ripping and running with my friends, and I had a daughter really young at 19, and I wanted to make more of myself, and she really inspired me I wanted to be larger than life. I just didn't want to be like, oh, this is my dad, he takes care of me and I love him. Like, no, I want my daughter to be like, yo, my dad is the shit, So I really wanted to inspire her and open up doors in the community. And one of my friends got me hip to poetry, and where I grew up at, we didn't know anything about art. We didn't know any artists. So my boy was into poetry, and that led me to photography. And I really started to take it seriously. And I remember, finding out about Gordon Parks in 2012. And I said, I want to be this guy one day. I just was so blown away by his work, and I started studying his work. And that's when I decided that I wanted to be a photographer. And I couldn't afford one, but my grandmother I'm the firstborn, I'm the oldest grandchild. So
I know
I called my grandmother and said, Grandma, let me use that Best Buy credit card. And she let me use it. I got my first camera in 2013. And right after that, both my best friends were murdered in February. So one was killed. My friend Derek Lee Day was murdered Friday night, and then I went to go pay my respects to his family. And after I left, my other best friend was murdered. Chris Samuels, Casper, he was murdered that Saturday. And the only reason why I wasn't around him because the distance had grown. Once I decided that tunnel vision, I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to make this thing a lifestyle. This is going to be my life. And they stand to grow from it. So it kind of distanced us a little bit, but that's when I started taking it serious. And I was like, no matter what I got to do, I'm going to make this happen. And then I just been taking pictures ever since.
Oh, wow. That's amazing, man. Amazing story. Yeah, I have family from down in Baltimore, man. Like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, but mostly we would all go to Baltimore. They lived out. They actually still do. Happy Grace and what the hell is the other Happy Grace and
I've heard of Happy Grace. Aberdeen. Okay. Yeah. I know about Aberdeen.
Yeah, so
okay,
I would visit them almost every summer. We have a couple family reunions down that way, and
you got to come back down. You got to come back down soon. Link up.
Couple years ago when I was on tour with Trey, my father and I, we drove down together, then met up with the tour. But Baltimore is an amazing place, and I never heard you speak before, so I started doing the research, and I was like, there's no you can't say you from anywhere else because you're
right, that Baltimore accent. Most definitely. My origin story, but how did you get into photography? I think that's super interesting that when I found out you was interviewing me, I rarely get interviewed by other photographers.
Uh-huh.
So it's like what is your origin story? When did you pick up the camera? What inspired you to pursue,
Yeah, so for me, I started in 2002 officially.
You an OG at this.
Yeah, shit, I'm 43. But
look, black don't crack, bro, because I thought we was the same age. I'm 31.
Yeah, but I'm self-taught, and I never envisioned myself to be a photographer. I have a similar background to you. I grew up in the hood in Syracuse, the South Side. And I never thought I was gonna be shit. I thought I was gonna be a drug dealer, like a lot of my friends. I thought I was gonna be a football player growing up, but I'm short, small. Then that gave. And I was like, yo, man. I was like, these streets is calling me, but I didn't have my family. I have a great family. My mom held me down. My dad owned a record store, so it was always I had 1 foot in the streets and 1 foot out of the streets. All my friends were drug dealing, been to jail, all that shit. And I'm a high school dropout, but something told me in when I was supposed to be my last year that I need to go to college. So I went to college. I have an associate's and a bachelor's, and I moved. My goal was to move to New York for some reason, and it was because of music. And it's because of music that I'm a photographer. I took these photos at Common concert at SOB's back in 2002, and that led me with a disposable camera, and that led me to eventually taking it to where I am now, where things elevate, keep working and progressing, and you meet certain people and you network, and next thing you know, you're able to sit down and talk to other people like yourself that are doing similar work for the communities that they belong in, and being able to be on a bigger platform than myself, such as Afropunk. So shout out to Afropunk.
Yeah, shout out to Afropunk.
For providing this for us to make it happen. So tell me a little bit more about Baltimore and what Baltimore means to you.
Man, Baltimore, I'm waiting for somebody to put in a wire comment or a homicide,
of course, it's
or a corner comment, or I'm waiting for or somebody to say two, say dude, say this and say that. But Baltimore means the world to me. It's because it crafted and made me who I am today. But growing up, it wasn't that way. Growing up, I hated it, and I thought that my life, the type of life that we are subject to here, I thought it was normal until I became an adult and I started to branch out and go other places. But growing up, it wasn't no cakewalk. Some people like to talk about their city, and it's I'm not gonna lie to you, is Baltimore a tough place? Yes, it is, but it has a certain sense of love and passion and resilience that I feel like you can't get anywhere else unless you were born here. So I love my city for what it made me into. It like you said, you grew up in the streets. All my friends are hustlers for the most part. But I learned so much in the streets. So by the time I decided my own path, I had gained so much knowledge and wealth inside the city that it was only right for me to end up where I am now. So growing up in Baltimore was pretty tough. I lost my first friend when I was around 16 to 17 over a dice game. you know, they were murdered. I've never gone a year without losing a friend. Like I lost like 8 homies last year. My homeboy D Dave, rest in peace. Amazing rapper, you know, amazing artist. He got murdered early this year. So it's like one of them places where people ask me like, why are you still here? And it's like, I want to be a part of that change and a part of that conversation so the next generation can have it easier than what I had, you know? So I always travel and everything, but I make sure like I still live in the city. I still live in the community. I'm very active. Me and my boys, we're engaged in this, in the school system because we really want to make that change to make the city better. So like at the end of the day, my career, it's sad the way I obtained my success, but I understand what I had to do, why I had this power to give back. You know, so like I said, so Baltimore means the world to me, and it feels good the fact that my city has a lot of respect for me and the fact that the work that I do here, the youth with the community, they love it. And I probably, like, my grandmother's house is coming to me, so I'm probably gonna always have a place to stay here in Baltimore. I'm 3rd generation. I'm not going anywhere. So, you know, that's the gist of it. You know, I just
have you ever wanted to live somewhere else?
Yeah, like I was, before everything happened for me, I was on my way to New York too. You know, I was like, I'm gonna move it, because at the time I was dating someone in New York. I was in New York every weekend. You know, I was staying like in Harlem. You know, that I met a lot from going out. A lot of the followers that I amassed early in my career, I was writing my name on prints. You know, we talked about me not having a website, but I do a lot. I would go to New York. My peoples, you know, like, I remember going to house parties and my peoples knew everybody, the girl that I was dating, and she would take me to all these different parties and I would give out free artwork with my name on it and people would just follow me. So I made a lot of friends in New York early when I first started, like in 2013 and 14. So I was going to stay, you know, and then Mike Brown died and then we had a lot of protests in Baltimore and I documented that and I never could get the work out. So I'm like, I'm really going to leave because local publications wouldn't even put my work. And I'm like, damn, do I suck like that bad? Like I'm that bad? And I was like, all right, my people was like, yo, just move up to New York. And I'm like, all right, bet. I was on my way to leave, but everything happened with Freddie and I decided to stay. You know, I found my voice here. So I wanted to use the voice that I found here to affect change in my community.
Got you. So Devin, that's a good transition. I was going to ask you, so how many years before the Freddie Gray stuff happened before you were shooting?
2 years. So I got interested in photography like 2012 on segue from my boy Josh Austin that we went to high school together, we played ball together and we became friends. He went to Iraq, came home, and he was into poetry. And I was a party promoter and he was like, yo, we know everybody in the city likes to do poetry. And I was like, yo, and I excuse my French, but like, ain't no niggas around the way coming to no poetry night. But it actually turned out really well. And I started taking pictures on his camera in 2012. And then I forgot it was his camera. He was like, yo, like, give me my motherfucking camera back. And I was like, all right, I need to go get my own one. So I actually got my first camera that was actually mine that I owned in 2013. So I usually mark that. My first camera was a Nikon D5100 and a Canon A1. But then I ain't know nothing about photography, but you know, when I bought the camera, it was like, yo, I would go and I start following photographers. You know, Instagram was still young at that time. So I start like finding out photographers. I'm like, why everybody's camera bigger than mine? Is this like a baby camera or something? You know, like the male ego is just like, no, I need a display box and all that stuff. So I actually sold that to a homeboy and then went and got me a Canon 60D. Just so I can have that display box that made me feel like a real photographer.
Made you feel like, I can relate to that as well.
You know, you asked me a question like what about Syracuse? Because I don't know much about Syracuse. The only way I know about Syracuse is funny. I found out Syracuse was a place when Carmelo Anthony went to go play for them. And that's like, okay, Syracuse, all right. And then I became a Syracuse fan because of Melo. So But like with us, like Syracuse, you know, like I think it's like definitely as photographers, we live behind the lens and we are documentaries of life. You know, we build certain connections to communities. Like, but what does Syracuse like mean to you?
Syracuse to me is just I hate to use the word just, but it's just home now. And when I mean home, it's where I grew up, where I was born and raised, where I learned everything. I learned, you know, how to be a man. It groomed me, it shaped me. It showed me that looking back at it in hindsight, that there's something much bigger out there than just Syracuse. It's a very small I guess, small and medium-sized city. And, you know, it got to a point where I knew that I was going to do something much bigger than if I needed to leave. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's what I was like at. It's like, you know, I go there, I see my family 2 or 3 days, and then I keep it moving. And I was just looking at some photos from Syracuse today that I took of some street stuff. And I was like, man, like, I think I need to go back there and really spend some time. I have some projects in my head that I want to do, but I want to spend some time there and really document it, because no one has done it on a professional level and really touched, you know, what's going on there. It's really fucked up. You know, it's really, at one point it was my neighborhood was deemed as one of the poorest neighborhoods in all of the, you know, freaking United States. And you go there, the house that I grew up in now is condemned. It's not a good place. And I think that I need to go back and really see exactly what's happening rather. But it's you know, it's very similar to a lot of the cities, what's going on. The inner youth is just nothing going on, nothing to do. And you know, I have a lot of friends and family that have been locked up. My brother just got out of prison 2 years ago. He was locked up. He did a 15-year bid, and before that, he did a 4.5-year bid, and in between, he was out for a year, and it was for violence and shit. And right now, what he's doing is working. They started a program, and he's working with in the high schools. Well, he was before this shit happened, but you know, he's figured out that what he can do to give back to the community is be a part of the community instead of trying to destroy the community.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and it took him all these years to figure it out. So, you know, if there's a will, there's a way. You know, they say. Definitely. And sometimes it's easy like that, but sometimes change happens where you have somebody that gets killed, and then you have somebody like yourself that documents it and brings, you know, shows, I guess, beauty and decay, so to speak, is what I look at with your work. It's such beautiful things that are happening, but also, you know, the decay, when I use that, is just like, it's so fucked up that it is happening, and that what's going on. And also, when I look at your work, I read an interview from you, and it said that, you know, you're not just looking for the bad, you know, because there was a lot of good that were happening from what I guess what people were deeming as the bad side, you know. And when I'm speaking, I'm talking about the police. And I will, if you don't mind, touch upon a little bit about that. And we're going to get into, obviously, the photo that, you know, in my opinion, changed the trajectory of your career and your life, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. When Freddie Gray passed, you know, like, Baltimore is one of those places, it's a really small city. So, like, if you're really from the city, you know somebody that knows somebody that's related to somebody that done hooked up with somebody. It's just like one of those things. Literally, like, no traffic. They probably take you 30 minutes to get everywhere in the city. So, like, everybody knows everybody. It's a real small community. You either went to high school with somebody or whatever the case may be. So when Freddie passed, you know, like, police brutality is so common here. It's very, very common. You know, like, I remember the last time I was arrested was in 2009. And the police pulled me over. This was like when I was going through my transition as, you know, becoming a dad, because I had a daughter on the way, and I was like 19. Jeez, and I stopped hustling. I didn't want to hustle anymore. And I told my mom gave me a job, helped me get a job at her job working in insurance. And it was like a Friday. I was on the street called Baltimore, Warwick. And I'm like, my mother just bought a brand new Camry. It's like a 2007. She bought it off the showroom floor, so the car not even out yet, you know. And so they saw me in it. The police been trying to lock me up for a minute, and they pulled us over. They tried to say the car was stolen. Me and my mom got the same last name, and then went through the whole spiel. And then one thing, I don't know how it is in other cities, but in Baltimore, once they put the handcuffs on you, 9 times out of 10, if you did nothing wrong, they're going to take you to jail. They're going to tell you, yo, the cuffs already on. There's nothing I can do for you, even though that's a lie. They put the cuffs on us. They searched the car multiple times, didn't find nothing. Then eventually they ended up putting drugs on me, and I ended up with a CDS violation in 2009. You know, so, like, that's the stuff I had to deal with. Or, like, my friend Sean Gamble, we went to high school together. He got into an altercation with off-duty police officers, and the off-duty police officer pulled a gun out, but on-duty police officers started shooting at the off-duty black police officer and shooting into the crowd because they just saw another black man with a gun, and they ended up shooting my friend, shooting a police officer, and my friend passed away. So like, you know, I'm so used to police brutality. It's a part of life. Like the first thing you do when you get a call, you know, when you know how like you see those movies when you're 16 and you get your first call and you see the like definitely like you looking like those white movies like, oh, you got your first call. They weren't about partying and stuff like that. No, the first thing your parents gonna tell you if they get your car is like, yo, look, if the police pull behind you, pull over. If you're not gonna make it right, make it right. Like they give
driving
you,
while black, my man.
Driving around black, you learn that at a very young. You know, my mother raised me how to avoid the police. So like, for the police can even come to me, I'm already gone.
Right.
You know, if I see a police 2 car behind me, I will drive slow and let them pass me. I will hop behind another car so they can't get behind me to run my tags. I just don't have time for it.
Yeah,
you know, so when you think about things like in Baltimore, a lot of people don't know about Tyrone West, where they beat him to death, suffocated him, spray him with so much mace that he started choking on his own saliva. Then they killed him, and then they hid the body, refusing to give the body to the family to get an official autopsy. That's a whole nother situation that happened a couple years before Freddie Gray. And there's so many people in between that have been hurt by police. But Freddie Gray was crazy because he wasn't doing nothing wrong. You know, and a lot of people like to bring up, you know, his record. If you look at his record, most of his charges or even non-processes are thrown out because the police are just so corrupted. So he was stopped by police officers and they snapped his back in multiple places. And mind you, they broke his leg when he tried to run away. Yeah, he did try to run away. Like I said, it's always a fight or flight mentality. Police, the best thing to do is to avoid them. So of course you're going to run and try to not, even if you're not doing anything wrong, it's just the way we grow up in a split second, you know, and had his back broken and the whole spill. And what I can say is we just took to the streets. You know, like you look at a lot of the other cities, the thing is with Baltimore, like I said earlier, we're very resilient and we're very strong. Like we have a lot of issues, but when it comes to our community, we click real tight. And we took automatically to the streets. Before he even passed away, we were protesting. You know, and he passed away April 19th.
Jan. Whew, Baltimore, man. This is man. So let's yeah, I'm just thinking about what you said, man. It is just really touching me right now. It really, really is. Yeah. So yeah, let's get into your work that you've done during the protest years.
Yeah.
There and
infamous picture.
Yes, the infamous photo here.
Yeah. So like that image, like I said, I documented protests with Mike Brown. I never understood. I never felt like I had a voice. You know, art kind of gave me my voice. I always thought, like, similar to what you said earlier, like all your homeboys are hustling, so you always thought you was going, oh, that's where I'm gonna end up. You know, like I didn't plan my life past 21. So I thought I was going to be dead. You know, like so. Now him, this artist, I'm becoming this artist, and I feel like it's definitely as Black artists, we have to reflect what's around us and tell our own story. And around that time, from just looking at like studying Gordon Park so much and understanding that he chose his camera as his weapon, and that's what I wanted to do. And I felt like Baltimore gets such a bad rep. Like where I grew up, I'm from like The Wire. That's where I grew up at. That's where I'm third generation. So that's, you know, that's my community. But I wanted to show a different side. I feel like no one can tell a story better than coming from the people from the community. You know, and I knew the way journalism was going to shape it and the way that media was going to shape it because of the fact that Baltimore once was, if not still, the heroin capital of America. If you look at it, we're one of the most dangerous cities, but it's a certain sense of camaraderie that I do feel here and love that I do get being in my own community that if you're not from here, you wouldn't really understand. So I wanted to make sure I can show that. So I didn't really think anything of it. At the time, I was using a little Fuji camera with Wi-Fi. You know, and I love shooting. I used to always shoot black and white film on my Canon 81, and that's how I actually developed like my black and white style. I derived my style from Gordon Parks, you know, and took like how he shot, and then I kind of digested it and regurgitated how I wanted to.
Okay.
And I just went out, and what I did was I wanted to move faster than media because when I shot the Mike Brown protest, I could never get my work out. So I was like, I'm gonna turn to social media and use my social media and follow. And at the time, I had 10,000 followers on Instagram and maybe like 8,000 like on Twitter. And I would shoot pictures in black and white and just Wi-Fi them to my phone. So I would shoot and then post and live. So like If you like images like this, I posted the image right after. And I remember
no editing. You shot in black and white. And
yeah. So shot in black and white. I punch up my contrast in camera. I punch up my highlights in camera. So everything is done in camera. Wi-Fi to the phone. I'm posting to Twitter, Visco, Instagram. Like, look, this is what's going on. Because on the news, when we were going through it, nobody was covering it until this moment happens. And a lot of people don't know all this. When we destroyed the police cars, we were peaceful. It's probably one of the most beautiful moments. And you know, even though it was a negative thing while we all came together, but I've never seen so many people in Baltimore march together peacefully. You know, and we had a baseball game that was shut down at the time, and you had drunk baseball fans. I believe it was the Orioles and Red Sox playing. So they shut down the stadium. The game still happened, but you couldn't go to the game because we shut down. Because downtown was just shut down. So now we are on the street, and I will never forget. You had drunk Orioles fans and baseball fans upset about the game, calling us niggas, monkeys, throwing food at us. And now you got to let that sink in. This is 2015. So people like me, I got thick skin, you know, because I've been through life already. At the time, I'm 26. And I've been subjected to racism, all different types of things. But now you're dealing with the psyche of the youth. So now you got kids from West and East Baltimore that the word nigga has never been used other than a word as a term of endearment from your peers. You know, I didn't start interacting with white people until I was in my 20s. You know, when I got my first job at 20, you know, working in corporate America. Right. I didn't really interact and hold conversations with people outside of the black community in Baltimore, because Baltimore has a lot of redlining, and we have a racial structure here that a lot of people don't know about. You know, black people stay in their pocket. You have the Latin community that's in their pocket, and you have the white community. Then you have these small communities in the middle that blend. But for the most part, West Baltimore, East Baltimore is predominantly black. So now you got these kids. So it started off as a fist fight between grown adults and kids, you know, and from that, yes, it got out of control. And I just was documenting and posting, you know, with a 35 millimeter. That's my favorite focal length, a 35 or a 50. I was shooting with a 35 millimeter on a Fuji XT1 with a 35 millimeter 1.4. And like I said, everything was done in camera. So as I'm shooting, I'm posting real live as I'm shooting, and I'm not thinking nothing of it. So I'm shooting and shooting. My mom calls me right after I took this image, and like, I heard it's getting crazy downtown. She's watching my daughter. She's like, your daughter is getting on my nerves. You need to come get her. I said, all right, I'm finishing up shooting, and I'll be here, but I feel safe. I'm fine. So I'm lying. I'm telling my mom I'm walking to the car. Right. I'm not. I'm just in the mix. You know, I'm just in the zone, and I'm shooting. My mother called me back and said, where you at? And I'm like, Mom, I'm walking to the car now. You know, we marched from Gilmore Homes all the way. My car's near Gilmore Homes. And then I made my way down here. And she was like, you lying. I see you on the front lines, and I see you on CNN right now, because I used to have a big afro. And I'm like sitting in between. And she cussed me out, you know. And I put all the imagery on social media and Twitter, and then it started going viral. And I remember the first person to hit me up was DJ Drama. So DJ Drama, he DM'd me on Twitter like, yo, what the hell is going on in Baltimore? So me and DJ Drama like DMing on Twitter, and I'm like, he like, can you post the image? And I'm like, sure, you know. And he posted the images or whatever, just to let people know what was going on in Baltimore. And then after that, I didn't think anything of it. I went to sleep, and I woke up Sunday, because this image was taken April 25th, 2015, Saturday just passed. And I woke up with like 20,000 followers. And I'm like, yo, what is going on? Right. And the next thing I know, the BBC was contacting me and the whole spiel. And then it just, you know, Usher started posting images. And then I seen Ice Cube, my boy Michael K that played Omar on the Wire. And then like Beyonce, Usher, Rihanna was posting stuff. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And mind you, we just about to go into martial law, you know, at this point where all this stuff is happening. Because then Monday, the youth clashed with the police officer again, you know, and that's when martial law, we had police officers from New Jersey, Virginia, PG County,
everybody, right?
You know, from PA, all here, along with the National Guard here in West Baltimore.
Wow. So that turned into, when did you get the call from Time Magazine? Right.
So they called me. So that Tuesday morning after everything happened, and at first I hung up on them. So I did an interview with the BBC. And then that was my first interview. I was super scared. Like, what if they twist my words up? Like, I'm just gonna be super scared, you know, because growing up, you don't trust media. You just like,
right.
you know, they're gonna mess my words up. So I do the interview. So then so this is the morning after. So we're out where a lot of people don't talk about. We cleaned up our own community. You know, that's why we say uprising, because, you know, a riot is an aspect to an uprising, because we did prayer circles, we had town halls, we cleaned up our own streets. You had Bloods and Crips and BGF gang members come together. You had Christian preachers and you had the Muslim people the Muslims come together and march and
unity.
You had the OGs like Stokey and the D Watkins. You know, you had OGs, you know, that's respected in the community. All the women that own the hairdressers, the basketball, the football coaches, all came together. We took our own streets back and calmed down everything. We did it all on our own with no type of help from a political standpoint or anything. The community took back those things. And while I'm documenting all this happening, Time Magazine is calling me from a block number, right? So they calling me from a block number. So I'm like, who? Like, I keep ignoring. So they keep calling.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's a bill collector. Or I'm thinking it's like a girl I might have pissed off and she's playing on my phone. So it's even one of the two.
Right.
And so I finally asked, like, who is this, right? And this guy had this weird accent. He like, this is Olivier from Time. I want to talk to Devin Allen, right? And I'm sitting with my mother looking at the news at the time, and I'm like, Mom, there's somebody from Time Magazine calling me. And she's like, why are you talking to me? You need to talk to them. So I hop on the phone. We talk about the work in the state of Baltimore. And he's like, I would love to do a blog post. And, you know, and I'm just like, I don't want the narrative of the work to change, because the work, I'm not, and they thought I was a well-seasoned journalist. And I'm like, no, I'm from West Baltimore. Yeah, they're like, so you're not working for any publication? And I'm like, no. They're like, so they actually did a blog talking about just me being an amateur and on the ground.
Yeah.
And I became kind of like the point person for them on the ground. And I remember they called me again, and I talked to Paul Moakley, who was the chief editor at the time. And he said, Devin, I want to talk to you about your work. I love your work. And he thought I was a well-seasoned journalist. It's like, no, Doug, I've been doing this for like 2 years. You know? I'm out here. They're like, well, did you know Freddie Gray? And it's like, no, but I knew people that knew him. We had mutual friends because Baltimore's not that big. And they was like, well, what's really going on? We don't want to hear about the CVS. And so shout out to Tom and Paul, you know, because they just wasn't worried about the burnt down CVS. They wanted to know the real story. Right. You know, they wanted to see the real. And I'm like, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, like the old Western movie. You know, that was like my slogan the whole time. You're going to see the real. And he was like, oh, we want to give you a full spread. So I was just like, all right, cool. Mind you, I'm an amateur. I don't know anything about copyrights. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just like, here's the images. This is the real story. So I gave them the images, and they called back, and they said, look, that image is really powerful. Send us this. I send them the image, and they say, well, we don't want to get your hopes up. And mind you, I'm like on Penn North, on Pennsylvania Avenue protesting, you know, shooting. And I'm like, look, bro, I really don't care. I'm glad I got the story out there. That's what it's about.
So you're shooting and talking while you're talking to them. You're out.
Yeah, you know, yeah. So I changed. So like when I became a photographer, I picked a job that I can do all day. So I would work at night from 12 at night to 8 in the morning, working with young adults with autism and intellectual disabilities, so I can shoot all day. So I'm getting off of work at 8 in the morning. I'm going straight out to protest. Right. Shooting all day, and then I'm editing at night. You know, anything that I didn't post in live, I'm editing in post, you know? And I remember not thinking nothing of it. You know, I went to sleep. I went to work like a regular day. I woke up from all these tweets, and my Twitter wouldn't open up. And I'm like, what is going on? I finally logged into Twitter. They say amateur photographer snags the cover of Time Magazine. For West Baltimore snags the cover of Time Magazine. Yo, bro, I just lost my shit. Like, I called my mother, like, Mom. And she like, and I just had gotten into a bad car accident. And she like, God damn it, Devin, I know you ain't just crashed that car. And it's like, no, Ma, I got the cover of Time Magazine. She dropped the phone. All I heard was her feet smack in the ground, you know, and then from there, it was like interview after interview, you know, and I was still shooting nonstop. I went on to be published I'm the third amateur photographer ever with the cover of Time magazine. I went on to be published multiple times in Time, and I ended up with the cover of the year, and I was nominated Person of the Year. The list wasn't all that. It was like me, Donald Trump, Caitlyn Jenner, Kim Kardashian, a couple politicians. None of us didn't win, so I was cool with that. I just didn't want to lose to Donald Trump as Person of the Year. So,
yeah, right.
You know?
Oh, man.
You know?
Cover of Time motherfucking magazine, bro. That is like... That's the dream of people that have been shooting for freaking their whole lives and never got it. You got it in 2 years of shooting.
It's a gift and a curse.
It is such an amazing accomplishment, and I remember seeing the cover. It's just such a striking image, and then also what they wrote about it. It just makes it, you know, even more powerful to see it. It's just. I mean, shit, man. Like, it's one of those things where I'm just like so proud of the image, and especially that, you know, a black man took the photo as well. It makes me even more proud to see exactly.
And I appreciate it. You know? It did a lot for the city. It allowed us to take our narrative back, and that's like the biggest thing. Like, control it. Like, I feel like that image allowed me to really put on for the city, and I also put people that I was inspired by in positions to also, you know, help the city, you know, because it's really important in moments like this to control the narrative, you know, to let people know that the real story is out here, and we was able to take that narrative back, you know, and really like, you know, so it's a very important picture to not just me that launched my career, you know, and I stand on that every day. My career is built on the broken back of Freddie Gray, and that's a fact. And that's why I still reside here to this day.
Right. So I'm gonna pull up a couple of more photos from around that time. You could just briefly tell me, you know, what was going on. Just take a couple of minutes to tell me, tell us rather.
This is one of my favorite images, not because, you know, a lot of people don't know that, like, after the cover of Time magazine, I started my own youth program where Michael Skolnick and Russell Simmons sent me a $20,000 grant to start teaching inner city kids photography. Oh, wow. Right, so I started that in 2015, and this kid actually ended up being one of my students, and which is funny, you know how it comes full circle. But in his mind, you know, this kid in this image actually inspired me, you know, about this image, you know, and because he couldn't understand what was really going on, his mind really couldn't digest it, and he just wanted to walk to the corner store. You know, and the police were like, no, you can't come past here. So you got to think about this kid. This is his community. This was taken on North Avenue in Cary.
He's walking to that store a bunch of times.
He walks to that store every day. So now you got people with this gear on telling me I can't. And all he doing was just wanted to walk to the store to get some water. And it took 2 black women. I got other images that, you know, post after this image, but this was my favorite, that it took, like, my friend, because Baltimore's so small, my friend Noreen and another woman from the community actually had to walk him through there just to get to the corner store. They try to make, at the time, I think he had to be like 7 to like 8 at the most. They try to make him walk all the way around a block just to get to a store that was like a couple steps.
You know,
but but once again, you know, I already know, black women to the rescue. You know, they like, he just want to go shout out to the black women. Right, they like, he just want to go to the store. So they walked him to the store, and he got his water and everything. Yeah, this image is crazy. A lot of the images you pick, and these are the images where I started my youth program. And you know, you gotta understand, we're on the front lines right now. Like, we getting tear gas, pepper spray, and you got kids that are just, the youth is just fearless right now. You know, a lot of people like to take credit for the uprising. I can't take credit for that, and nobody can, because the youth did that. You're talking about the next generation that's coming into their own control that. You're talking about kids from the ages of 13 to 18, early 20s are the ones, you know, doing these things that's on the front line. This kid had to be like 10 years old on the front lines, and he just was fearless, riding his bike up and down, you know, giving them the middle finger. A lot of people saw the images as being negative, you know, but I saw a certain sense of resilience, and I was inspired by it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so this is right after the Time cover. And this is like what happened where the guy was running and the police stopped, because it looks like they're chasing him, but they're not. They were running to stop people stomping the police cars. And when they met us, we ain't back down. We met them on the front lines, and that's that, like, that moment. And it's funny because documenting a lot of these things, a lot of these people became my friends after the fact. You know, because we grew up, like I said, Baltimore was small, So like my homie right there, we used to go get sushi and get lit together, post everything, you know. So I met some of my closest friends in some of these darkest times, you know.
That's awesome. This one almost looks like to me like I look at this and I see closure in a way. Like it almost says like the end. Like it's the wind down. It's calm. You know, it's sad as hell. It's almost like thank you, Freddie. You know, for sacrificing. You know what I'm saying? And it's just Baltimore as hell to me. Obviously, what do you see when you took this image? What made you want to press the shutter button?
Yeah, so this image is very important to me because it's my first actual freelance job. Okay. So everything I did for the uprising, for the most part, that just was me being out. This image, I was actually commissioned to do this. And Time Magazine, reached out to me, and they was like, so the guy in the image is Kevin Moore. He actually recorded the iconic video footage of Freddie Gray. Mm-hmm. It's two angles. My friend Kiana recorded one angle, and Kevin recorded the other angle. And I went to go find Kevin. At the time he was going through a lot. Like the police were harassing him. He was arrested behind recording the footage. A lot of people don't know that. So I pulled up on him. I knocked on his door. He wasn't home. Came back the next day. Like I said, Baltimore small. I called my homegirl. Said, "Yo, I need to find Kevin. I want to document him for this piece that I'm doing right now." Mm-hmm. And I got Kevin number. I hit him up. We chilled. We became really good friends. I went on to photograph him multiple times. But on that corner, that was the last time Freddie Gray was seen alive. Was on that corner.
Oh wow!
And
did not know that part.
And when I'm working with my subjects, like, even though this is a commission, and like a lot of times I don't freelance for the most part because I have a moral compass. So like I went to Kevin. I said, "Yo, how do you want to be portrayed?" Because even though this is like me freelancing for time, but we got to, like, once again, we got to keep that narrative real, authentic, and real to him, to me, and then what does this stand for? So like you said, he wanted a image, that meant something to him, but still had that solidarity with Freddie. So
got you.
Yeah.
So street photography is that's where you started, and is street photography still your avenue of choice right now when it comes to documenting?
Yeah, so like for me, when I fell in love with photography, I didn't know much about it other than YouTube and Golden Park. So I just YouTubed everything. Okay. And I just wanted to shoot, period. So you would catch me shooting rappers and doing music videos. I was shooting models. I spent a lot of time doing portraiture. Street photography was my thing. Where I can go out into the streets. So like a lot of times, the streets is my studio because I'll be sitting on a block with my homeboys just chilling. They be shooting dice, and I get some iconic images. Or like this image, this ballerina hit me up, and I was like, "Yo, we got to shoot in the streets." I just love shooting the hood because that's where I come from, and I like to show my community in a different light, and why I love it. So, street photography became like my bread and butter because I wasn't seeing any images coming from like my community like that. Like back in the day, it was a lot of OGs like Robert Houston that were documenting and stuff like that. But like in that time, I didn't feel like nobody was documenting like those dope moments on the block, just chilling, drinking, doing whatever we do. Showing those intimate moments of eating crabs on the stoop or those family cookouts. So I wanted to document those things. So like right now, I just like to shoot everything. When I got a lot of hate when I first blew up. I was getting like really cold shoulders in the photography space. Yeah, I was told I was lucky. My work wasn't that good. It was just a lucky shot. I will be gone within a couple of years. That's what everybody's gonna remember me for. So I set out to like prove people wrong. Like I can shoot anything. So like I'm revisiting my portraiture. So I look to like shooting portraiture. My boy Bishme that was on Project Runway. He's from Baltimore, East Baltimore. So he designed dresses and stuff like that. So I shot some fashion stuff. Like I want to shoot it all. So like right now I've been shooting a lot of sports and documenting the youth playing sports in Baltimore. Still shooting the streets because I still walk these streets every day. I just finished up a corruption piece about police corruption with my boy D. Watkins for Huffington Post. So like I'm just trying to prove that You can come from the hood. You can come from a place like Baltimore, live in Baltimore, and still be successful. That's what I'm doing right now. And I spend a lot of time teaching and running workshops in the community too, and giving out free cameras to the community.
It's we have very similar. When you say that, it strikes a note in myself because I like to shoot just about everything as well. I guess what I'm known for is shooting hip hop.
Hey,
I'm known for being the roots photographer. I'm known for working with artists such as Trey Songz, who dropped in the live and dropped a comment. He said his mom used to work for the Baltimore Department of Corrections, I believe he said.
Oh shit! Yo, she probably know a couple of the homies then.
Yeah, probably. Like shot Drake a bunch, but also I like shooting stuff. This is in Angola. It's one of my favorite photos from over there. And the other day, I was inspired. I watched Unorthodox on Netflix, and I went out to the Hasidic community in South Williamsburg and sat in my car and just documented from there to keep safe, but also try to stay creative in a way. And I've done demonstration. This was in D.C. For Mumia, trying to free him, which is still hasn't been done yet. To shooting, mostly I guess I'm known for shooting music, but also you mentioned shooting sports. This is something where this is actually in Angola as well, and they were trying to tell me you can't go out in the streets by yourself, and I was like, I'm not trying to be afraid of my people. This is my first time here. Yeah, I was on tour. I was on tour with Trey Songz at the time, and I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be great, but we're not doing anything right now. I'm going outside, and I walked upon this street soccer game, and my head was blown. I was like, this is awesome, and they just let me document and do my damn thing. But just so I want to.
I got a quick question for you though. Quick question. When your portraiture, like when you're working with artists, because I think the first person I documented, I spent a lot of time with like Steph Curry, and it was that's like a brother. Him and Aisha, that's like family now at this point. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of difficult because I'm so used to documenting where I'm from that I know just a lot of people that's in my shots. Mm-hmm. So bit like traveling like with Steph, it was kind of like taking down that barrier to make him comfortable with me and getting to know me that allowed me to like document him and get his raw essence. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you build your like photography? Because a lot of people don't know like how you connect to your subject is very, very important. So like, can you talk about that? Like how you build those relationships with your artists?
Sure. Like we'll talk a little bit about. Let's see if I have another photo in here. Let's talk about this one here. So. This is Wiz Khalifa and Amber Rose back in 2000 and whatever, 12 or 11, something like that. And I guess the reason they were comfortable enough to do this in front of me without asking is because I have been documenting Wiz years before this, before, he dressed totally different, acted totally, his songs were totally different, all that stuff. And I guess making them comfortable is just making sure that I put out images of them that I believe that represents them in the best light. Making sure that I make them look as good as possible. There's a lot of photographers that take photos and they look like shit. There was a story going on the internet about, I believe it was Pop Smoke. Rest in peace, Pop Smoke. He got killed.
Oh, the guy with the pictures with the teeth.
Yeah, and he was looking. He was looking all fucked up, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like that doesn't do him any justice. Like, why would you post that? It doesn't do yourself as any justice as well. You don't know how to make a good photo. You don't know, like, look at the person. Take a good photo and then post it, and it's going to make your career go longer. And I've always fashioned myself as like, I don't need to post everything. Like, just because I took a photo of an artist, and I have plenty of photos of artists that will never see the light of day because they look like shit. And so
exactly, yeah. I think some people get caught up. They get caught up because it's like, oh, it's an artist. I'm gonna pop off of this, and it's like, that's something I learned. It took me a while to understand that about Steph. So it's like, I've spent documenting Steph from 2015 all the way up to to now, and it took me a while to like feel his energy, understand, you know, who he is as a person. So now it's bread and butter. He know I'm not going to have him looking crazy. You know, I'm going to catch those. I know what Steph want when he want his
Right.
shot. I know how he likes to be shot now, but taking that time, and then sometimes I've learned to also put the camera down sometimes. You know, I always like to pride myself, like, sometimes it's not always about the pictures you take, but sometimes it's about the pictures you don't take.
Yes.
Is what makes you a good photographer.
I'll go back to this. This is at Trey's house. Trey is my brother, right? And immediately I started working with him in 2015. So immediately, like, we didn't meet. We were on the same flight together and all that stuff. We met when we were doing a layover in Dubai. I believe it was Dubai. And we're going to Angola. I think that's what the portion of the trip. And he came up to me and it's like, he knew I was. I'm the new guy. You know, what's up, Mel? How you doing? And I was like, thank you. Like, just that little bit of shit for him to say my name meant a lot to me. There's some other artists, and I've been around them, that come up to you and don't say shit to you. Because they don't know what you look like. They don't know nothing about you. But Trey immediately was, what's up? And I was like, all right, I'll fuck with this guy just based off of that. And we had the most amazing trip and shit. And that was supposed to be possibly a one-time thing. Led to me 5 years later, whatever, me being his personal photographer, me and being his brother, him coming to the crib, I'm going to his crib. And it goes to show, like, I'm able to get him to do this kind of shit in this photo.
Right, and that's when you get the good work.
Yes. And, you know, it's times where you talking about putting the camera down, we're dancing, we're chilling, we're smoking, we're having a good time. We're building the creativity. There's our other friend, Bianca, she's there, and it's just feeding. We're feeding and gathering it all up. And it just, you get amazing work right there when you have that trust and integrity, as somebody said in here. Integrity is definitely key.
Yeah, it's very important. It's very important.
I just want to, we got about 8 minutes left, actually 7 minutes, and I just want to make sure everybody knows that you, like, have been on Oprah's channel, interviewed, which is a huge,
I didn't even know.
Huge fucking deal, brother. And you're also a part of the Gordon Parks Foundation. You know, you're a fellow. You have a fellowship there still.
Yeah, the first fellow. Yeah.
You do work with Under Armour. The Under Armour is based in Baltimore as well. And I just want to make sure that we also touch on Afro Punk. Of course, you have documented Afro Punk.
Yeah, love Afro Punk. Big shout out to them. Like, one of my first times documented festival was in 2015 when they reached out to me. You know, they've always shown love to the work, so shout out to them. You know, being an amateur photographer is really hard to get gigs because your portfolio is not that vast at that time. So Afro Punk brought me out. You know, I got to meet SZA, yo. I was like, yo, that was SZA. Yo, I need to go photograph. Because SZA posted the time cover and she tagged me. So I'm like, I got to go speak. So when I went to go speak to her. One of the nicest
people I know. I've been knowing her before she was SZA. She's an amazing person.
Yeah.
And I really adore her.
I was like, yo, that was SZA. I'm like, yo, I want to shoot my shot. Like, but no, like, she posted the time code. So I was like, hey, you know, you posted my, she was like, I know who you are. You got to meet my dad. And I was like, yo, this is dope. And I got to take a dope portrait of her.
That's amazing.
So shout out to SZA. You know, amazing time.
We were there. I mean, I've shot all of them. And I was there the year that her dad was there.
Yeah, he was mad cool. He was mad cool. It was an experience. It was my first time shooting a festival. Drank too much, but I had a ball.
That's awesome.
Thanks again, Afro Punk.
Yeah, I've shot them pretty much. I think I've done all of the Afro Punk festivals here in Brooklyn, and I was able to shoot. They brought me out to South Africa, which was an amazing experience. Rain too that much out there, but it's an amazing experience. So let's take the last 5 minutes or so and see if there's any questions.
Cool.
We got one from Shango. Let's see. He's just talking about this goes along with where we're going on. So if you just said your best memory. Was that your best memory, meeting SZA?
Meeting SZA, yo.
What was
my best memory?
Tell us to take about can you think about another one that stood out?
I'm trying to think who else. I'm trying to think my other, like, I had I don't know, I just think just the energy, just like shooting. I made some amazing friends. Like, you know, like I made friends like Marcus Prime. I made a lot of friends up there. So I think my takeaway from Afro Punk is connecting with so many dope creatives. And like mine, that when I left, I keep in contact with a lot of people. So I think every time I go, I make new friends. And I think Grace Jones, with all her wardrobe changes, just was
Bruh,
iconic.
I wish I could show.
Period. The GOAT.
I wish I could
The
show
GOAT.
some of my
The
Grace
GOAT.
Jones photos up
The
there, but
GOAT.
her nipple is showing and out in all of them. I can't show.
Yeah, so
any
seeing
of
her
these
perform
photos.
was like, was probably
This
top
is,
of my bucket list.
I guess if I had to say, this is one of my favorite moments, being able to photograph Anderson .Paak getting ready back in the tent before his performance. And basically he game me I didn't know him at the time, but I know his tour manager, and he gave me about 5 minutes before he gave me the look like, man, if you don't get up out of here, like if you don't got it by now, you got it. Like you better get something. Yeah, it's one of my favorite moments being able to meet him. He's one of my favorite artists this generation and many other generations that I've been a part of. He's so amazing. Here's one last question we could take. Boom. Did it come up? Not come up. Are we still there? Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Any advice? Yeah. Any advice for people trying to find that creative calling? I think, to be honest, this is the perfect time because the world is still. We have to be still. Like, for me, it was just like diving into conscious and see what's really there. A lot of times, the world is filled with so much noise in our day-to-day lives. You know, we worrying about what we're gonna eat today. We got work. If we got kids, we got to pay this bill. That, you know, the way society is set up doesn't allow you to really find your true calling or your true self. So I think definitely right now, in this COVID moment where you can be still, you have to be in the house. I would say just start experimenting. You know, like I started off as a photographer, but now I'm a multifaceted artist where I do installations, performance art, all different types of things. So I just say experiment until you find something that moves your heart, you know?
That's awesome. So we got a few minutes left. Where can people buy your book?
You can just Google A Beautiful Ghetto. Hey Market is my publisher. So shout out to them. It's on, I hate to say it, it's on Amazon. We're working on re-releasing it in a paperback really soon, but you can definitely get it online. If you are in Baltimore, definitely support these local bookstores. We all about that jazz here in Baltimore, so support the local bookstores.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely A Beautiful Ghetto. Yeah, go cop that.
No doubt. Beautiful Ghetto, but let's wrap it up here. I really, really appreciate your wisdom and your thoughts and, you know, what you have to offer to the world. You know, photography is a gift, and I'm really pleased that, you know, you are using your gift to, you know, show what's going on in Baltimore and, you know, possibly beyond. I mean, I'm really impressed by your resume and the things that you've been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time. It's really inspiring to me. I got to get myself a Times cover. I want Oprah to talk about me. So I'm hoping one day that I, too, will do something, you know, to strike a chord amongst those.
Man, you already doing it, bro.
Thank you very much. But, you know, it's still, you know, something that I definitely want to have in my career is definitely time. National Geographic as well. Like, that would be fucking amazing as well.
Yeah, I need a Vogue cover. I need to get like my boy
Vogue,
Tyler Mitchell. Shout out to that boy Tyler Mitchell. He's a Going Park fellow too.
He's awesome. I'm trying to get him on here next.
You got you, man.
One of these times that I'm doing. Yeah. But I really, really appreciate it, man. And I'm hoping that, you know, the people that are listening really taking what has been said and processing it and put it out there into the world in good energy. We got 10 seconds left, and I just want to say thank you. And tune in next week. Tune in next week, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace, y'all.
Thank you.